around getting started. Like I wanna keep till I got it. So I put it up and I lied it. Tell me how you like it. Got me on the wheel, I'ma drive it. But they wanna raise up the mileage.
Good morning, and thank you for tuning in to WDRBmedia, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. You're listening to Thy Queendom Come radio show, and I'm your host, LaNinia, the queen with the crooked crown. Today's show is brought to you by Precious Gifts Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit organization equipping women and girls for self-sufficiency and wellness to overcome life's obstacles. Please check out their website at www.preciousgifts.com for more information on upcoming events and how you can become a sponsor and give your time or talents to the organization. Well, today is March 17th, and we're just trucking along, waiting for the springtime weather to pop on in there at any day now, because this weather is crazy. It's like all the seasons in 1 week here in North Carolina. So I'm ready for the spring and for my birthday coming up in a few days. It's on the 21st, the day after the first day of spring. So hopefully I'll have some good weather on my B-Day, my born day. But getting into what our topic is today, we're talking about overindulging our children. And what exactly does that mean? Or have you ever wondered if you're overindulging your child? I often wonder if I am, not even wonder. I often believe that I am, because as a parent, especially as a single parent, I always want to probably overcompensate for my for the lack of the presence of the father figure. And so I often, overdo a lot of things for my kids to, make them feel equal or balanced out a lot of times to the things that maybe children with two-parent households get. However, I am seeing that even in two-parent households, that the same thing is happening with overindulging their children as well. I believe it's just as parents and, particular age group, 30 and up, I would say, the way we were raised, we most likely want our children to have a better experience than we may have had. So we find ourselves not wanting to put our children in positions or spaces that we may have had to experience. And that in turn shows up in a way that these kids are just getting everything that their little hearts desire. Because, of course, we're making sure that their needs are met. We're providing them with the best possible circumstances to help them grow and be healthy and happy. But are we doing too much that can actually hinder some things for our children? So we're going to get into some of the ways that we possibly could be overindulging, and maybe are you overindulging? Some questions that can be asked of yourself if that's something that you're doing, or if you're seeing certain behaviors in your children that could, be a direct result from doing too much for these kids. And so after the break, we're going to get into some of these things that may be harmful to our kids when we're thinking we're just doing the right thing for them and getting them, all that they want. It could somehow be hindering them. So when we come back, we'll continue our discussion on overindulging our children. You're listening to Thy Queendom Come radio show. I'm your host, LaNinia, the queen with the crooked crown, and you're tuned in to WDRBmedia, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. We'll be right back.
This is it, what? Lucini pouring from the sky, let's get rich, what? The Jiki Vines and Sugar Dimes can't quit, what? Now pop the cork and Nina Vega and get lit, what? Introducing Phantom of the Dark, walk through my heaven with levitation from reefers, drenching defense and E7, showboating with Rugers, flash vines, Belafonte Jigger. Let's skate for what this worth as we confiscate your figures.
Casanova Brown, levitating Jiki and Dashiki's the Lahada car, 54, chasing diamond runners headed icebound. The big chiller diamond convention, Harlem Buck strut, breezing world heights, Hollywood, Madam Butterfly. Let me in your house, a pleasure. From the knuckle swatch, shadow boxes catching black eye blue.
I play the thief, what? Sensations at the Monte Glory, screaming Chiba. Fulfilling pleasures in my castles, blow the smoke out. The Garza Vega substitutes when the Dutch is gone. The load don't stop, give me shouts, it's the season. Sauteers, souffleurs for swerving no corners. We magnets to moolah, living with Charlie's Angels on us. No smiling when sliding, that gets you caught up in the octa or dead for moving. It's just like that as we proceed.
Saturday night special, better take it light. You Jaja, you're a Capitan. Quest to the coast, the Key Largo, wire the chain gang. Keep your ears out for a ear, sip the fountain blue. House of bamboo, paradise.
This is it, what? Lucini pouring from the sky, let's get rich, what? The Jiki Vines and Sugar Dimes can't quit, what? Now pop the cork and Nina Vega and get lit, what? This is it, what? This is it, what? Lucini pouring from the sky, let's get rich, what? The Jiki Vines and Sugar Dimes can't quit, what? Now pop the cork and Nina Vega and get lit, what?
Falling sparrows through the seas, a black Caesar that convinces silky days, satin nights, taking flight, Dino going, sweet sensation, Spanish flying with the lady Scarface, bottoms up, sunshine, love potion number 9.
And we hailing from the Magic City, transcending sweeter on your aura, Fancini in London, relaxation in Bora Bora, got notion to bring it, sing it, never been my function, stoning, robbing, we heisting merchandise and gunning, love it, leave it, but bless the war chief for his bison, get it, got it, the low will forever be nice.
Yeah, the sunny Tiba, he be sipping on my red They get you gracious, he be sipping on my red We float the tri-state draped in the satin vines. This coolie hijack pack from the sugar shack. Then what we do after we sip the armor red we start the Harlem River quiver, dig it sweet daddy. Sharpen the crimson blade, high Sierra serenade. Anatomy for seduction, be this ebony
as we exit the place with grace. Drizzy armor better, the bursting of clouds, it pours. Everything seems better on flats with love. We move only in the mist, it's slow, it's life, and we can't get enough of this. This is it, what? Lucini pouring from the sky, let's get rich, what? The Jiki Vines and Sugar Dimes can't quit, what? Now pop the cork and Nina Vega and get lit, what? This is it, what? This is it, what? Lucini pouring from the sky, let's get rich, what? The Jiki Vines and Sugar Dimes can't quit, what? Now pop the cork and Nina Vega and get lit, what? This is it, what? This is it, what?
He be sipping on my red The Geechee Vicious, he be sipping on my red The Joe Chink, he be sipping on my red The Chiquita, yeah, he be sipping on my red We got Asti Spumante.
Welcome back to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, and those streaming live through free TuneIn radio app and Streama. You're listening to Thy Queendom Come radio show, and I'm your host, LaNinia, the queen with the crooked crown. If you're just tuning in, we are discussing overindulging our children today. And before we can really assess whether or not we're overindulging our kids, it's helpful to know exactly what qualifies as overindulgence. And in a book called How Much is Too Much, written by John Clark, PhD, and Connie Dawson, PhD, there are 3 different types of overindulgence. One is giving kids too much, such as toys or involving them in too many activities. The second is over-nurturing, which is doing something for your child that they should be doing for themselves. And my hand is raised because I have often been a culprit of doing that. And then the third is soft structure, meaning not having rules, not enforcing rules, or not requiring kids to do chores. So overindulgence can take the form of one or a combination of those things. So ask yourself, are you doing any of those things or a combination of a couple of those things? And what we need to keep in mind at the top of all of this is that it's coming from a good place, right? we as parents want to do the best for our children. But what we also have to keep in mind is that we can be harming our kids and setting them up to fail and causing them pain. Because it's not just about too many toys or too many privileges, but it can also be about too much attention and too few boundaries. So, and this is not something, like I said, single parent household or in a two-parent household. It can happen at any income level, and it's not something that just wealthy families do with their kids. Because Lord knows I am not wealthy, at least not yet. I'm claiming it though. I'm definitely claiming it. Soon come, okay? But I do go above and beyond a lot of times for my children where, I have to stop and say, why am I doing all of this for these kids who a lot of times, are they even deserving? Like for every A, should they get something? For every single A? No, because they should be getting A's. That is something that should be expected of them, to achieve for that type of greatness, to get A's. Now, if they're a child or a student who's struggling in school and in a certain subject, and say, for instance, they're a C student at best, and they wind up, achieving a B or an A, whereas they were, in a lower grade prior to that. Yes, I think they deserve something. But if you have an A, B student or a straight A student, no, of course not. You're not supposed to give them something each and every time. You'll be passing out, treats and toys and everything, every time you turn around. So I think it just really depends on your child and what rewards are warranted. I think that's the key. So, important questions to ask yourself is, does it get in the way of the child's development or task, what you're doing for them? For example, if a parent carries their 4-year-old child into a preschool, that child likely needs more attention than their peers in the class, because a 4-year-old should be very well equipped to walk into their own preschool classroom and wave goodbye, kiss mommy or daddy, hug, kiss, and go about their day. But if you're carrying them, that is signifying, that it's a clinginess, it's some kind of developmental situation that's going on. And this is coming from the Dr. Breedhoff, who did write that book on how much is too much for your kids. So the next thing, or the next question is, does it use a disproportionate amount of family resources? Basically, whether it's time or money, energy or something else, are you giving your child significantly, more than you have or can afford, and doing so while saving less for other things that your family may need? So, yeah, like I often will, many times, this has been since my daughter has been a baby, I, of course, will go without to give for my kids. But then it becomes to do they really need whatever I'm sacrificing for them? Now, if it's some shoes, some clothes, they're growing like weeds, of course, I don't need to get some luxury for myself over making sure my children have necessities. But I think when we talk about the disproportionate amount of family resources, we're talking about things that your kids don't really need. They're more of wants. So, and then the next thing that the doctor speaks of is, whose needs are you actually meeting? Are you doing what you're doing for yourself, or are you doing it for the child? Are you doing it to make your kid happy, or to show that they have this to maybe reflect on you? If they have these new, Jordans, or the newest designer bag if they're a teenager or something? Are you doing that to reflect on them, or is that a reflection of you? So you have to really figure out whose needs, and if it is really a need, whose needs are you meeting? And then finally, does it deplete or harm others in some way? Is the overindulgence like overdoing the activities? You're putting them in so many things that you're harming your kids from having them tired because you want them in football and gymnastics and soccer, and you want them in piano and all of these various things. Who is that really for, and is that harming them because they're overworked with all of the activities? So I actually teach a program to middle school girls. And what I have noticed, and I have been talking about this to some of their parents, is that these girls always act like their lives are so drastic and they're just so depressed all the time. And a lot of these girls are privileged children. They're not going without. They have the best of this and that. But we were really trying to understand, like, what is the drama all about? Why are these kids so depleted all the time? Like, their lives are so horrible, and what we kind of came up with, and it proves the fact here in this study or this book, as well by these PhDs, is that a lot of times when you overindulge your children and they have that instant gratification of they get everything that they want. These kids have all of these electronics, they have phones, they have clothes, they have the shoes, they have all of these things. It can make them ungrateful. So the ungrateful attitude leads to them being unappreciative, of course, and entitled. So it's kind of like when you're a person who gets everything and anything that you want, it's boring. Things get boring to you. And it's kind of like, what else do I have to look at or, complain about when I have everything? So now I'm just going to say I'm depressed. And not to take light, there are children that do have some depression and mental health issues and things going on that definitely do cause them some, mental health stressors and disorders and things of that nature. I'm not taking that away at all. But a lot of these kids, because I see it so many places in the schools I teach, everywhere, that these kids are just overindulged and they're ungrateful. And that's just my opinion, and a little bit from some of these PhDs that are co-signing what I'm saying as well. So we have to really look and see what we're doing to play into this behavior and the responses that we're getting from our kids. So we'll get back into this after the break. And you're tuned in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey, yeah. Hey, yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got the Eddie, I don't need no GPS's. Diamond shining, now keep the VVS's. Don't lie, you're trying to keep me like a checklist. Slow wine, body cold like a necklace. I see you straight up out of heaven with it on. Baby, you a blessing with it on. Come teach me a lesson with it on. Yeah, I see you straight up out of heaven with it on. Baby, you a blessing with it on. Come teach me a lesson with it on. Come show me with a neck bow. Might show you with a check bow. Might show you with a net bow. Give it all to you if you check out. Way you moving it around me. Make me feel like you won't drown me. Make me feel like you won't wear me. Only you know how to get me up. I got the Eddie, I don't need no GPS's. Diamond, I keep the VVS's. Don't lie, you're tryna keep me like a checklist. Slow wine, body cold like a necklace. I see you straight up out of heaven with it on. Baby, you a blessing with it on. Come teach me a lesson with it on. I see you straight up out of heaven with it on. Baby, you a blessing with it on. Come teach me a lesson with it on.
I got your body cold like a necklace. No bad mind really can't touch this. Cold so cold when you wind this. Me straight one put you on me checklist. Me loving the love cause it's reckless. Girl, I'm a sinner, God bless me. Baby, don't no stress me. Say bad girl, say you kill with that vibe.
I tell you, I don't need no GPS's. Diamond, I keep the VVS's. Don't lie, you're tryna keep me like a checklist. Slow wine, body cold like a necklace.
Me need a little beat of your time, and say me give you keys to my life, and baby girl, show me your vibe. Baby girl, show me your light. Me need a little beat of your time, and say me give you keys to my life, and baby girl, show me your vibe. They control and control.
Welcome back to WDRBmedia, the voice of the community, and those streaming live through free TuneIn radio app. You're listening to the Queendom Come radio show. I'm your host, LaNinia, the queen with the crooked crown. And if you're just tuning in, we've been discussing overindulging our children. And when I left off, I was speaking about the fact that the kids are kind of ungrateful. And according to Making Grateful Kids, The Science of Building Character by Jeffrey Froh, they state that kids between the ages of 14 and 19 found that materialistic teens consider material possessions to be central to their happiness, and they had lower grades, were more envious of others, and were less satisfied with their lives. Exactly what I was speaking of before the break. Teens who focused on gratitude and not on material things were, on the other hand, they had higher grades, were less envious of others, and were more motivated to help others, and were actually happier. So overindulgence can influence the kids' goals in life overall. So what can we as parents do to guard against overindulgence or stop doing too much for our children? And some suggestions, I know for me, I give my kids chores. So they have to earn a lot of the things that their benefits. So giving them these chores, basically, I feel, builds their self-esteem and teaches them to think about others, because doing things around the house helps the whole family. So, I do have allowance tied to their chores. So it helps them, teach them about the value of money and what it means to work for it. So that's giving them a sense of gratitude for hard work, and you get some type of reward. Also, teaching your children to take care of their things. And if they lose or break something that you have bought them, then you let them do extra chores around the house to replace it. Don't just run out and get them a new something, which I have been guilty of. However, changing that pattern will allow them to see that these things cost money. And now that the one that was gifted to you you have been irresponsible with it, you're going to have to do what you need to do to get it replaced. And one key point that I love is getting the whole family involved in charitable or service projects. And I have to say, I was so proud of my son. He's 9 years old, and he participated in a community service event this weekend, and he helped make sandwiches for homeless people. And I was so proud of him, and he felt good about doing something for someone else. And it gives your kids a sense of give back, that yes, I have this, and my life is as such, but helping others gives them a sense of pride in being a charitable person. So there are ways that you can make those changes if you have been guilty of overindulging your children. Basically, helping your kids be more independent, responsible, and focused on family and friends rather than on material things you begin to see a child who is more confident, kind, not spoiled, proud of themselves, and happy. So we can all probably do a little bit better if we've been, doing a lot for these kids, and helping our kids just be more well-rounded, great citizens as they grow up. So I really appreciate you tuning in with me today. Please continue to tune in every Friday at 9:30 a.m. If you should want to be a guest on the show or have any advertising for your brand, service, or business that you would like to have on the show, please contact me at 800-988-3044 or info@preciousgifts.com, and I'll be glad to get you set up. You've been listening to Thy Queendom Come radio show. I'm your host, LaNinia, the queen with the crooked crown, on WDRBmedia, the voice of the community, for double the information and inspiration. Until next week, continue to be a blessing, and remember, you are the gift. Ashe.
Unsure what the balance held, I touched my belly, overwhelmed by what I had been chosen to perform. But then an angel came one day, told me to kneel down and pray, for unto me a man-child would be born. Whoa, this crazy circumstance, I knew his life deserved a chance, but everybody told me to be smart. Look at your career, they said, Lauren, baby, use your head. But instead I chose to use my heart. Now the joy of my world is in Zion. Now the joy of my world is in Zion. How beautiful is nothing more than to wait at Zion's door. I've never been in love like this before. Now let me pray to keep you from the perils that will surely come. See life in